Andres from AA Sports. The Mexico national team this last week on Saturday, June 8th, played their third and final friendly match against Brazil in preparation for the Copa América at Kyle Field in Texas. It was a big crowd turnout with many Brazilian fans in the stadium as well. Unfortunately, Mexico lost 3-2 during the final minutes in really heartbreaking fashion as Endrick scored a banger goal to give Brazil the win. It's a bummer. Mexico couldn't end it with a tie, but I'll be honest, Mexico was much more competitive than I expected them to be. I'll say the same thing in terms of just the majority of Mexico fans in general. I think this performance was much better than they expected it to be for Mexico, especially when Brazil made substitutions in the second half and started putting on 18 players. They held up pretty well and had a much better performance than their performance versus Uruguay, where they, of course, got absolutely thrashed 4-0. They scored 2 goals in the second half to make a comeback after conceding 2 goals, actually, one in the first half and then one early in the second half. It was Brazil's turn now to demonstrate once again how 2-0 is the most dangerous score in football. Unfortunately for Mexico, great for Brazil, and if you're a Brazilian fan, Endrick, the 17-year-old wonder kid, he just came in clutch. That's all you can really describe it. Give him and Vinny credit. That was a really, really great play for that winning goal. So let's get right into it. You know what time it is, folks. The Mexico national team lost 3-2 against Brazil in their final preparation match before the Copa América. Here are the team's grades for this match. Goalkeeper, D+. Julio Gonzalez had 2 saves in the game. However, he also conceded the goal to Endrick that won Brazil the game. While the lack of coverage and guarding Endrick on that play was not on him, what was on Julio was being completely flat-footed to where he couldn't make any save like that. No goalkeeper could have ever made a save that flat-footed. And he didn't even try or put effort into at least trying to stop the ball. He just literally watched he watched the ball go into the back of the net. That is not a good look, and it does again make you wonder how much we might potentially miss Luis Angel Malagon, who was supposed to be the starter for Copa América, now ruled out due to injury. How much of an impact will his absence be? Could it become Mexico's big weakness, the goalkeeper position? We don't know. We'll see. This also, once again, does raise the question if, depending on how, of course, Julio Gonzalez, who will likely be the starter during the tournament, performs, and even Acevedo, if he gets an opportunity and performs, depending on what those 2 goalkeepers show, if Ochoa is still one of Mexico's 2 best goalkeepers, along with Luis Angel Malagon, who is currently the number 1 goalkeeper for Mexico, in my opinion and in the opinion of many, as he has been the most in form with America. Because if Julio Gonzalez and Acevedo don't do well, and with Raul Rangel clearly not being experienced enough, as we saw versus Uruguay, it will likely result in Ochoa coming back. And right now, based on Rangel and Julio's performance, at least in Julio's performance in in the game versus Brazil, I think Ochoa, as of right now, is still one of the best 2 we have with Malagon. I still think Malagon would be the starter between him and Ochoa. And if it isn't Malagon, Ochoa's the starter, and vice versa, Moving on, though, defensive fullbacks. I'll give them a B grade for this game, with 2 tackles won and a bright 90-minute performance. I think Israel Reyes walked out of the game as one of the best players for Mexico versus Brazil. He is, in my opinion, Mexico's best right back right now, and in my opinion, he should be the starter for Copa America. Gerardo Arteaga looked a little shaky and didn't play his best during the first half. He did leave Andreas Pereira open to receive an assist that led to him scoring. Yeah, it wasn't a good start. However, he did have a much better second half where he played pretty well. He also had 2 tackles won in the game, both in the second half. He played great. Both in the second half. He played great during the final 45 minutes, and you know, both wing backs, is him and Israel Reyes, were able to compete with Brazil's A team when they were being subbed on such players such as Rodrigo and Vinny Jr. Um, and they even prevented Vinny Jr. from scoring. He had some moments where he did push up for a potential offensive attack. They shut him down. Not to mention, for Arteaga, this is just something to add for Arteaga on the stats. He also did have a shot on goal in the 20th minute, a cañonazo that the Brazilian goalkeeper dived to save. So that is another positive for Arteaga in this game, as he did show his potential to contribute offensively as well, which was something that Jesus Gallardo was very criticized for not being able to do as a defensive fullback, specifically in the left back position, as in this era, in today's era of football at least, you can't be a successful fullback if you can't contribute both defensively as well as offensively. Arteaga showed his potential to do both, I think, in this game. I'll say the same thing for, again, Israel Reyes. Moving on to the center backs, B-. Johan Vasquez had a moment in the 54th minute where he was frankly stuck in no man's land, where there were 2 Brazilian players pushing up and he had to somehow try to defend both. He could only somewhat defend one in that scenario, and Alvarez left Martinelli wide open, and he ended up scoring the second for Brazil in the game. Tough scenario for Johan there, but outside of that, he had a good game, blocking shots and indeed also winning a tackle. Edson Alvarez, who again normally plays as a center defensive midfielder, once again started as a center back alongside Johan Vasquez, and frankly he struggled in this game. Alvarez left Martinelli wide open, and he ended up scoring Brazil's second goal, and then left the center of the box area undefended, and Endrick swooped in for a header that ended up scoring the game winner in the final minutes of the match. Nevertheless, Edson still had decent moments and also had a tackle won in this game. And while there were some moments from Alvarez that were good, Alvarez plays the position of center defensive midfielder, I think, much better than he does center back, and having him play back with Johan made him look a little out of his element. And it is clear Cesar Montes and Johan Vasquez are the 2 best center backs we have. And Edson, while he can play as a third center back if needed, is not good enough to start as a center back. I think his best position, and the position he should be playing going forward, is that center defensive midfielder position. Midfield, D. Luis Chavez was okay today, but really he had no help as the midfield got outplayed, with Luis Romo and Charlie starting in the game. Charlie had an opportunity to capitalize on a goalkeeper error and score, but ended up choking it away. He failed to gain simple ball control while one-on-one with the goalkeeper for Brazil, and missed what should have been a given chance for a goal, given it was a major goalkeeper blunder. Luis Romo and Charlie Rodriguez both struggled to produce offensively, and they both struggled to provide good passes up front to Quiñones and Santi in this game. And Charlie's corner kicks were not great either. Again, I have no idea how they're getting playing time, how they even earned it. In my opinion, it's not deserved at all. They have no business being on the field with how poor their form has been. Frankly, Romo and Charlie do not have the skill and have no business starting or playing for Mexico in the Copa América. They got completely outplayed in this game, and if they start or play together in the Copa América, the midfield will be eaten alive in the group stage games. I do not trust them to do well in the midfield. I would rather see Piojo Alvarado, Orbelin Pineda, or Eric Sanchez on the field with Edson and Chavez in the midfield rather than either one of those two players in Romo or Charlie, as we already know exactly who they are, and frankly, they're overrated. If the fact that they're getting so much playing time with such poor form makes them overrated. Moving on to the wingers. A grade for the wingers. Julian Quiñones played a really good game, and along with Israel Reyes, was arguably one of the two best players for Mexico in this game. He scored off an assist from Alexis Vega, his second goal for Mexico. He is, without a doubt, Mexico's most in-form winger, and I do expect him to be starting for the Copa América, and I think it would be a little criminal if we don't start him, as he, again, is the best winger we have right now. Alexis Vega also assisted Quiñones for the first goal. I got to give credit to Alexis Vega. He actually contributed in this game and showed motivation to step up in big moments in big games, at least in this match, which is something that, again, the lack of motivation was something that Alexis Vega was criticized for, at least in this game. He did show it. Let's hope he keeps that attitude throughout the Copa América, as I think if he does have that motivation, I think that will help him and his skill, and I think he will have a much better performance than expected if the motivation is there. Strikers. B. Guillermo Martinez came in as a substitute for Santiago Jimenez and scored the second goal that tied the game for Mexico nearing the 90-minute mark. It came off a corner kick where he actually recovered his own rebound after heading the corner kick towards the net. The header was saved by the Brazilian keeper, and Martinez took the shot on one touch and scored. Give credit to him, he came in clutch and had a better performance than the last game versus Uruguay. Santi Jimenez, on the other hand, he did struggle up front as the midfield really failed to give him good passes and service. It's sad to see it, but at the same time, it's, again, Quiñones also struggled with that a bit as well. It's hard to succeed as the striker when you have Charlie and Luis Romo to work with and hope to give you good passes. You also got to give credit to the Brazilian defense, because while one moment in the box should have been a penalty that wasn't called, they defended Santi Jimenez really, really well in this game. There was never a moment in this game where there wasn't a defender guarding Santi, and there wasn't a moment where the defense, or at least one of the Brazilian players on the defense, was aware of Santi's position on the field. It was pretty 100% when the Brazilian players saw the lineup, they focused on him and shutting him down. However, in the Copa América, while he will need better support from the midfielders, I do think Santi needs a better midfield to work with. It will also be up to him, Santi, to know that for every national team game, the opposing team and their coach, again, during that pregame routine, every opposing team and their coach, they will highlight his name on the lineup sheet and make a plan for him to make sure that he is never left undefended, because they know how much of a threat he is. They know about his scoring potential because he's shown it at the club level with Feyenoord, and again now there's a big possibility that he will make a move to a bigger club. And knowing this, it is up to Santi to adapt and step up like he has done for Feyenoord. This is it. This will be his test. So Copa America will decide whether he is the starter for this cycle and going forward, or whether they wait on him for another couple of years before they decide to use him as a starter for the next cycle after 2026. So this is his big test. So let's hope Santi succeeds now that he finally does have this chance that many fans have criticized that he never got. Here it is. Now's his time to shine and prove it. And with that, it does conclude Mexico's 3-game preparation series for the Copa America. 1 win versus Bolivia, a horrific loss versus Uruguay, and a second loss, but better performance against Brazil. This loss, while having a better performance, still keeps Jaime Lozano's coaching record still very shaky. With 9 wins, 3 ties, 6 losses, including back-to-back losses in these preparation matches against the big teams, Uruguay and Brazil. However, with this improved performance from the A team and playing relatively competitive against Brazil's A/B team mix, there is something positive for Mexico going forward. Brazil's A and B teams, in my opinion, are both arguably better than Jamaica and Venezuela's national teams. And Mexico in this game was able to come back from a 2-0 deficit in this game against them. So I think if they can do that against this Brazil roster and starting lineup, the expectation should be that they do well against Venezuela and Jamaica. I think fans' expectations for Mexico to advance out of the group are still reasonable despite recent struggles given this performance versus Brazil. Well, I don't think they have enough to beat Ecuador, who have improved greatly over the last 2 years and have had a really good World Cup qualifying campaign so far. If they can compete with Brazil's B team, which I do think is better than Venezuela's and Jamaica's rosters, and even do good to an extent against Brazil's A players when they came on the field, I think the expectation should be that they make it out of the group. I also think the fans should keep the high expectation, because if we lower the bar for Mexico just because of the recent struggles, it will lower the level of play and standard for the team as well, because again, with lower expectations, they will feel less public pressure to step up as much. That's not good to have. So while I don't think they will win the group, I think Mexico will finish second and advance to the knockout phase. And I think fans should expect and hope for that as well. Jaime Lozano will also need that, because should he fail to get the team past the group stage, he will more than likely be out as Mexico's head coach. So Jimmy Lozano, his future will be determined by this tournament. With that, now Jimmy Lozano will pick his final 26-man roster for the tournament as Mexico look to their first group stage match in the Copa America, amid calling up and experimenting with new players in what many have criticized has felt like a bit of a forced generational change. Their first game will be in Houston versus Jamaica, where they hope to win and, of course, start the tournament strong. All right, Andres from AA Sports, of course, let me know your takes and opinions in the comments section. That is all for me in this video. Of course, like and subscribe, as I will be covering the Mexico games this summer, as well as many of the other Copa America and Euro matches as possible. It's going to be a lot of football this summer, a lot of games. It'll be hard to make a lot of videos, so I'll try to make as many as possible and cover the tournament as best as possible. So, of course, please like and subscribe and spread word about the channel to, of course, help grow this sports passion project. Thanks so much, and, well, go Mexico in the Copa América. Thank you so much.